good day to you each, my beautiful and wonderful people, on this wonderful Wednesday. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. It's your favorite girl, Simply Michelle, ready to sprinkle some inspiration into your day. I have some exciting news. I'd like to introduce you to my new podcast, The Inspiration Station, bringing you heartfelt advice where your stories can spark meaningful conversations. Whether you're seeking hope, faith, or just a little nudge in the right direction, The Inspiration Station is your go-to place. So email me at theinspirationstation911@gmail.com, and I will anonymously read your email and respond via podcast. So send those emails today. As you know, my books, journals, and devotionals are all available on Amazon, so be sure to check them out and grab your copies today. If you are looking for a mental health coach, I am here to support you on your journey to greatness. Please visit www.creativeonpurposeforpurpose.godaddysite.com to book your session today, because you matter and so does your mental health. Calling all aspiring authors. Have you written the book and now need to get it published? I've got you covered. Head on over to my website for more information, and let's bring your writing dreams to life. Now, do me a solid and hit that follow button, and be sure to tell me what you think of today's episode. And without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Isaiah 43 and 18 through 19 says, "But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do, for I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry land." So y'all listen, life is full of transitions, but every season has a purpose. It's okay to feel uncertain or even resistant to change. But what I want us to understand is this: trusting God's timing, it brings about that peace that surpasses all understanding, as Philippians 4 and 7 tells us. Stepping into the unfamiliar can only open many doors. You can walk into an unexpected relationship, learning experiences, and fresh perspectives on life. Like now, we are transitioning, from winter to spring. And for many, that is a good change, right? Many don't want to deal with the winter because of the cold, the snow, the ice, the freezing rain, and having to layer up with clothes and wearing coats, hats, gloves, scarves, and boots. You know what I mean? And even though the snow is pretty to watch from the inside, because if you anything like me, you don't want to be out there in it. But everything appears to be dead, like the flowers, the leaves, and even the sunshine. But when we transition to spring, the air is just right. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. You know what I mean? You see the flowers begin to bloom and leaves form on the trees, and, the sun fills the sky, right? We have all heard the phrase, April showers bring May flowers. So even though there is a lot of rain, you anticipate the beauty of what happens after the rain. A lot of times, after the rain, comes a rainbow. And we understand that the rainbow truly, reminds us of the promises of God. And so when we think about the seasons changing, like the actual seasons, winter, spring, summer, and fall, that is the same way with us when we are transitioning seasons in our lives. So when we read Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 4, it says, "For everything There is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance. You know, waiting often teaches patience and resilience, and it allows us to develop skills or discover new strengths we didn't even know we had. You know, in the latter part of December and beginning of January, we had some amazing facilitators at my church facilitating about spiritual gifts during our morning enrichment class. So it's been some years ago, you know, that I have actually taken the spiritual gift inventory. But when I took it this time again, a part of the class, there were some gifts I had no idea I had. In this season of my life, I was discovering new strengths and developing some of the old ones I've always known I've had. So, just as an example, my pastor, through the guidance of the Holy Spirit, entrusted me to lead the grief ministry. And of course, that's something new for me. I would have never imagined leading people in this way. But when I look back at some of the things I've gone through, it helps me to understand that all I've went through was not in vain and that God was using those things for such a time as this. Now, is it easy to learn something new? Not always, but it's well worth taking a moment to learn them because it is preparing us for the next season. So when we look at the Bible, we have plenty of examples about those in different seasons. Just to kind of give a couple, let's think about David's journey before becoming king. And I think you can find that in 1 Samuel 16 up through 2 Samuel 5, I believe. But it is somewhere up and through there. But he was anointed as a young shepherd, okay? However, before he could take his rightful place as king, he went through years of challenges before stepping into his role. Through that season, he grew in character, reliance on God, and leadership. And these are all things, and maybe more, that God could be developing within each of us in the seasons that don't feel so well to us. And what about Abraham when he was called to leave his home? And that could be found in Genesis 12, 1 through 4. God promised to bless him through his obedience, even though the destination was unclear. And we all know Job, you know what I mean? So what about Job's story? Despite all the trials, Job's faith grew. And he experienced God in a more intimate way. And this is actually proven in Job 42, verse 5. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Now, let's get an example of a woman in the Bible. Ruth's faithfulness during hardship led to redemption, provision, and her role in God's greater glory. Coming out of a prolonged difficulty reminds us that perseverance yields a harvest. Looking back, we see how God was present through every step. Even if we talk about Jesus, you know, the time in the wilderness, you know, and that's found in Luke 4, 1 through 13. His solitude was a preparatory season that strengthened him for his ministry. Quiet seasons can create space for rediscovery, reflection, and new passions. When things are quiet, we get scared and we begin to think that God has left us when really he is standing right there along with us through these times. Sometimes we have to endure a season of quietness so that we can hear from the Lord. Our lives, y'all, I mean, we get so busy and we find time to do everything we need and want to do, including doing all the talking and prayer. But we don't spend enough time listening. Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Ask me, and I will tell you remarkable secrets you do not know about things to come." But what happens is, a lot of times we do the asking, but we don't give God room to tell us anything. And then when things happen unexpectedly, we look at God like, why didn't you tell me this was going to happen? You know what I mean? We kind of have a reaction and we feel some type of way. But here's the thing, he tried. But were we willing to listen after we asked? Embracing the not so easy season can strengthen our reliance on God, draw us closer to him, and revealing his faithfulness in ways we hadn't experienced before, just as these examples from the Bible. The same way God walked with them through their valleys, bringing them out even better than when they went in, he will do it with us as well, but we have to be a willing participant. So with all of this, I want to pose 2 questions to you. What season of life are you in right now? And how is God calling you to trust him in this time? And sometimes that can be hard, you guys, especially, relinquishing, our will, our wants, our desires, our ways completely to God, and just stepping back and saying, okay, God, do what you do best. Do whatever it is that you want to do. It's hard. I know with me, it's kind of like, I don't know. I got to be honest. I used to put up a huge fight. I don't know about giving you everything, God, because I can't see where you're going. Because keep in mind, we can only see to the corner. But God can actually see around that corner. He knows what's coming up. He knows what's going to take place. He knows the ending of your story. But we get paranoid and we become afraid because we don't know. And I just got to be honest with you. What I had to learn is what God is doing ain't none of my business. Because if I love him the way I say I do, if I trust him the way I say I do, then what he doing ain't none of my business. I'm going to let God be God, and I'm going to step back and let him do him. Because what I do understand is God can do far greater, far bigger, and he can do all the unimaginable than what I could ever think. So I'm going to let him be God. And all of this is easier said than done. But I had to learn it. And I know I've said this, before on a podcast, but it always brings me, this always comes up and it brings, me back to, a time I had with trusting God. And what he was telling me was, it's easy to trust me when you got food in the refrigerator and in the cabinets. It's easy to trust me when you have a full tank of gas. It's easy to trust me when you have money in the bank. It's easy to trust me when all the bills are paid in full. It's easy to trust me when you flip them lights on and they come on, and you turn the water on and it comes on, and you turn that heat on and the heat comes on. Yeah, all of that. It's easy to trust me. But can you trust me when you can't see the way? Can you trust me when there's no light in the tunnel? Can you trust me when you can't trace me? Can you trust me when all you have is me? And y'all, that was hard for me simply because I had a hard time trusting. I didn't trust people very much because to me, and what the devil kept reminding me of, is that if I get close to anybody, they ain't gonna do nothing but either leave me or hurt me. So it was hard for me to trust people. But when, God dropped that on me, I'm like, man, because I struggled with trusting God. I knew how big God was. I know his word. I know his word to stand true because of his record with me. But I still couldn't trust him, especially not the way he wanted me to trust him. Yes, we can go on and on and on with the debate talking about, we just need to have the faith of the size of a mustard seed. I get it. But as God elevates you, that faith should elevate as well. Your trust in him should elevate as well. You still should not be 20, 30, 40 years in with God and this relationship with him, and you still holding on to that mustard seed. Sometimes, I'm not going to sit here and tell you no tale. Sometimes that's all you can have is that mustard seed, depending on what you're going through. And I've been through some stuff. And when I look back on the stuff I've been through, I'm like, I know it wasn't nobody but God that brought me through. It should have been worse for me. If somebody else had gone through this, it would have broke them. So I'm grateful to God for what he does for me. But there are moments where I'm telling you, in those seasons, like one of the seasons I'm enduring now, it's hard. I'm like, but Lord, I'm still going to offer you what I have. I know I should be trusting you more, but I'm going to give you what I do have. But we have to know and we have to trust that God is exactly who he say he is, and he has plans for us. He has the way already made. Because if he's going to take us through something, he's already lined up the restoration. We just got to get there. And he's waiting and he's willing to give us what we've asked for. But many of us don't want to go through those not so easy, seasons. But let's embrace it for once. Let's come together and say, you know what, God, I'm coming on one accord with you. We gonna do this. We gonna knock this season out because I know next season is my season. And stand on it. It's easy for people to tell you not to waver. It's easy for people, that are on the outside looking in to tell you how to handle your situation. There were times in some of these difficult seasons, I couldn't say anything in prayer, but God helped me. And sometimes I couldn't even say that. I just let my tears do the talking. Because y'all do understand God hears our tears. He hears our hearts. He hears every unspoken word. That's how wonderful and mighty he is. So I'm grateful that he stood patiently. I'm grateful that he understood. Yeah, she just struggling. She just disobedient, but she gonna come around. He loved me enough to look past all of my faults. And he still tended to my needs. And I'm not just talking about the material things that I could put hands on. I'm talking about tending to my needs in mental health. Tending to my needs with helping me to learn how to forgive, how to trust, how to believe again, how to stand, how to be quiet, because my biggest thing was my mouth. I was determined to have the last word. But God had to renew me and help me to learn that that's not all right. What are you solving by all of this? Absolutely nothing. So I had to go through that season where he was putting people in my midst that the old Michelle would have responded, and I would have said some things that wasn't very godly. But I had to go through that season to where I'm like, I gotta be quiet. Lord, you don't hear them talking crazy to me? One time, just let me say one thing. One time, just one time is all I need. But I had to learn to be quiet. Everything doesn't deserve my response. That was hard for me, y'all, because even though it was a defense mechanism that I carried, that was something that I was, used to doing. But now I understand I don't have to defend myself. If that's what you say about me, that's what you say about me. That's just an opinion. But what does God say about me? Because what God says about me are facts. But I had to go through a season in learning that. Did I always get it right? Nope. But I still got back up. God dusted me off and said, okay, let's try this again. And if I can be completely honest, I'm still not all the way there. But I come a long way from where I was at. So what I'm saying is embrace those seasons. It's not going to be easy. God never promised us easy. But he did promise to never leave us. And he did promise to never forsake us. And as a witness, I can say that that's very true. God ain't going to put something in his word, y'all, and then renege on it. And he's not going to, change his mind about things just because you feel some type of way. That's not how it goes. It's kind of like, remember back in the day when our parents would whip us or put us on punishment or something, and they would tell us, it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And back then you sitting here like, yeah, okay then. But as a parent, I understand that now. And I'm sure, when God sees us grieving, when God sees us upset, when God sees us hurting, when God sees that we don't understand, I'm sure it hurts him as well. But he can't go back on what he needs to do because he knows greater is coming. And I love the fact that if you truly have a relationship with him, whatever it is you're going through, he don't let you stay there. You may want to stay there. And there were times in each of my seasons, the hard ones, I wanted to just stay there. I wanted to just forget it. He gave me a day or two, I guess depending on his generosity. But when it was time, he came back to me and he said, you can't stay here. It's time to get up. You got folks waiting on you. You got to get up. I need you to learn the lesson. And I did just that. Because I did not like where I was at. But I was just to that point to where I'm like, just forget it. It's not working. God saw me. God heard me. God knew me. So I'm grateful for today because he never gave up on me. And that's what I need each and every one of you to know, that he will not give up on you as long as you have the right intentions in your heart. He loves you. So let me Close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for walking with us through every season of our lives. Whether we are stepping into something new, waiting in uncertainty, or letting go of what was, we trust you that you have a purpose for it all. Help us to embrace change with courage and faith, knowing that your plans are good for us. Strengthen us in times of doubt. Open our eyes to the blessings you are unfolding and remind us that you are always by our side. May we find peace in your timing and purpose in every season. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. No matter what season you're in, God is walking with you every step of the way. Trust Him. And trust Him to make something beautiful in His perfect timing. And there you have it, folks. That concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope you found encouragement, motivation, guidance, and inspiration to live a life aligned with your true purpose. And remember, you are unique and there's a purpose waiting to be fulfilled within you. Don't let it go unnoticed or unexplored. Now go have a great day on purpose. See you next time.